disabilities. So today we'll be working, continuing on in our work in Mark. We've been in Mark for several weeks now. We are in the 6th chapter of Mark. We'll be looking at the 1st through the 6th verse that you have in your bulletin. If you need to, you can take your phones out, whatever you need to in order to follow along. Whatever you need to be honest, to take some notes on that may be helpful for you throughout the week. Because we hope that this will inspire some conversation that might happen around dinner tables or telephone calls or wherever that might be. So Jesus goes home. And as he goes home, some very interesting things happen. He's already earlier in the gospel passage gone home, and some interesting things happened, and his family didn't quite get who he was. And I preached about that several weeks ago. And today he's going home, and he's going to be assaulted again, if you will, by some other folks. And they're going to say some things about Jesus that just aren't very nice. And then he's going to do some healing after that. So what I want to do today is I want to begin this sermon and ask you a question. Have you ever been neutralized? Placed in a neutral space for one reason or the other? Maybe it's because of your height, your diminutive self. Maybe because you're younger. We got some younger folks in the congregation, and people didn't take you seriously because you were younger. Maybe, quite honestly, as we have some folks who are older in the congregation, you're wondering if people will listen to you. I have some experience, you say. And I have some experience that maybe you might need to hear, but for one reason or the other, somebody might neutralize you because of your age. We have sexism. And some of you women have felt that. Some of you men have felt that. That one reason or the other, because you're a woman, you didn't get heard. Or maybe because you're a man, you didn't get heard. We have racism, because maybe you're one race or the other, maybe you didn't get heard. We got all this neutralization that goes on all around us. So have you ever been neutralized? Because that's what happens to Jesus. That's what happens to Jesus. Jesus left there and went to his hometown, accompanied by his disciples. And when the Sabbath came, he began to teach in the synagogue. And many who heard him were amazed or astonished. And they were saying, "Where did this man get these things? What wisdom was given to him? How are such mighty works done by his hands? Who is this Jesus? Who is this Jesus?" Who is this Jesus for you? For a couple weeks ago, you heard that he calmed the seas. Weeks after that, you heard him healing. You've heard all kinds of profound things that Jesus has done. And I want to ask you, have you neutralized him with familiarity? Oops. You've been walking with him for oh so long. Or some of you have been walking with him for a very short period of time. And you've become familiar with him. And the story about him going to his hometown, oh yeah, Jesus is going home again, whatever. Jesus goes and heals somebody, oh yeah, he does that. Jesus walks on water, yeah, he does that. You're no longer surprised by what Jesus might do. And quite honestly, I have done that in my own life. I've been so familiar with Jesus that I don't expect him to do some things. Does that hit anybody? our familiarity can neutralize him. It can put it in such a way that he is not going to surprise you, or you're not going to let him surprise you. Because after all, you know he walks on water. After all, you know he's raised from the dead. After all, you know he went to the cross. After all. So Jesus goes home. And as he goes home with his disciples, they're there, and he gets it. He understands that he's an alien at home. He already gets it. John's gospel put it this way in the first chapter of John's gospel. In John chapter 1, verses 10 and 11, it says this: He was in the world, and he came, and the world came into being through him, yet the world did not know him. That's how John says it. And it says this: And he came to what was his own people, and they did not accept him. Jesus already understands that there's going to be times that we don't recognize him. But he also understands that he wants to blow your minds. He wants to blow your mind with his power. He wants to change your life with his power. He wants to take you from here and bring you to there with his love. He wants to take you from a person who is a rebel to a follower. And he wants to hang all your rebellion on the cross. And he wants to take that rebellion away. Because he knows your rebellion gets you in trouble, doesn't it? So he goes home. And he's home, and they begin to say this: Is this not the carpenter, the son of Mary, and the brother of James and Jose, and Judas, and Simon? Are not his sisters here with us? And they took offense at him. Do you know what they were saying to Jesus? You're illegitimate. They acknowledge who? His mama. But they don't acknowledge the fatherhood of God, the fatherhood of Joseph. And in the first century, as many times, that would have been an absolute insult to him. It would have been neutralizing him, putting him in a position of no power, no authority, and it would neutralize him. I think they were quite honestly afraid of his power. And quite honestly, maybe we in our own lives are afraid of his power and what he might actually do for your marriages, what he might actually do for your children, what he might actually do for you, what he might actually do for that difficult neighbor that you have. And our familiarity neutralizes him. And Jesus says, I'm a prophet. And a prophet is not without honor except in his hometown, among his relatives, and his own household. He said, I'm in a long line of prophets. I have power, and I have authority, and I have clarity, and I have identity, and I've got something to say to you that might just change your life. I want to take a challenge for a minute. And I want you to understand how gifted we are as Christians. And I want to talk a little bit about a culture that doesn't know Jesus. Because a culture that doesn't know Jesus only has themselves to trust, but doesn't have anything else to look out and walk towards and forward with. So the hope is here within our own selves if we don't believe in Jesus. And I know many of you all would go, my goodness gracious, if the hope is in me, personally you would be like me. I'm in a lot of trouble. And we're in a lot of trouble. So we have a culture and a group of folks out there that it might be you today. It might be you today. It might be absolutely where you're coming from today. And you're saying, I have no hope. I have nothing beyond me to look forward to or guide me. And you're finding yourself empty. Jesus comes into the world not to be neutralized, but to give us a hope, a promise, and a future beyond ourselves. Because we can't fix it ourselves. Have you noticed that? Can't fix government. Can't fix economy by ourselves. Can't bring about world peace by ourselves. Taking a team of people to get children out of a cave in Thailand. And it's a group of people working together in the common good to assist and bring light where there is absolute darkness. Jesus gives us a hope, gives us a promise, and gives us a future. But how have you neutralized him? How have you diminished his power? And I would ask you, how does God want to surprise you? Any of you ever been surprised by Jesus? How awesome is it? How many of you want to be absolutely surprised again by Jesus? Oh, I do. I want to be surprised by Jesus every single second of the day. In our first service, I preached a sermon, and I didn't realize the Lord was going to touch my heart or do something with me, but he did. We began to state the Nicene Creed, and as I'm stating the Nicene Creed, I'm going, very God from very God, begotten, not made, being of one substance with the Father, through him all things are made. And I'm going, I heard these words. I've studied these words. Dana, I've taught these words. And all of a sudden I'm going, wow. Wow. Stephen pronounced forgiveness of sins at the last service, and all of a sudden I'm going, wow. No longer are they just written in paper or on the screens. Something happened because I had an expectation in my heart that possibly Jesus was going to break through somehow, some way today. Do you have an expectation? The desire in your heart that he will break through somehow, some way today? Let's look at the passage a little bit further. It's kind of fun, because it speaks of who God is and who he is. He says, I'm a prophet without honor except in the hometown among his relatives. He says, I'm in a long line of tradition and power that has authority. And then in verse 5 it says this, and he could do no mighty work there except, I love this, except that he laid his hands on a few sick people and healed them. Wow. Except He laid his hands on a few sick people and he healed them. Any of y'all sick out there? Anybody know that anybody's sick out there? Anybody desire healing out there? Despite their chaos, beside their confusion, beside their familiarity, beside all that stuff, he said, I'm going to be God. And I'm going to touch your life because you need your life touched. And then what he says in this passage is quite humorous. And he marveled because of their unbelief. And then he went among the villages teaching. What is Jesus teaching you in your village today? How is Jesus surprising you today as your king? And how, in fact, will you revel in his joy when you are surprised and you go, wow, wow, oh my goodness,